and welcome to the trend. Welcome to the trend. Now, if you are going to be saying hello to us, I would love for you to share that online. Okay, how about you do that? The hashtag is Hey Amina at the Trend Live is our handle on X, our handle on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, pretty much every platform there is. It's just the trend. Make sure that you say hello so that we would know where it is that you are watching the show from. Right now, I am so excited. I'm so happy. I've been looking forward to this interview the entire day. I am so humbled because right now, let me tell you, when it comes to the podcast world, there is no one who has a bigger name than Julia Gaido. Hi, Jules.
Hey, Amina.
Welcome to the trend.
Thank you.
This is different for you, isn't it?
First of all, who would have thought this is where we would be?
Right?
Our dynamic has changed.
It really has. Good job to you too. I could say the same. You've really just, a lot has happened.
Yeah.
In fact, this is a catch-up session and an interview all rolled up into one. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Amina. I can't complain.
No, you can't.
I really
Others
can't.
can. Yeah.
I really can't. Well, I choose not to.
Good.
I can't complain. There's so many things I can be upset about, but I choose not to.
Yeah.
Life is good.
Life is great.
That's the energy I'm setting into the new year. Yeah.
Now, you are a podcaster, known to many as a podcaster right now, but I know you are also a creative and influencer, which was also all sort of like not planned, but yet here we are. What other things do you do?
Well, my background is in marketing. That's my professional background. And then I landed on this space just looking for a creative outlet years ago with my first YouTube channel, Over 25, with the other girls, Shiko, Ivy, Lona, shout out to them.
Yeah.
And then it just blew up. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take the plunge and continue like full throttle.
But so when everyone decided, okay, let's not, first of all, we're now almost over 30, you're over 25,
yeah.
And they sort of wanted to do other things. You wanted to still focus on, just conversations, talking about things affecting people. Why?
Creation, basically, content creation.
As an outlet?
As an outlet.
So you didn't look at it like a career choice that you were making. You were just like, this is something that I'm passionate about. Yeah?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It was absolutely not a career choice. I just felt that I needed to, you sometimes you feel an itch, like you're like, I need to, I want to do something, I want to write, I want to bake, this was one of those things, and it was too loud in my head. It's like I had to heed the call, and I started it obviously alongside the job I had where we used to work together.
Yeah.
And then eventually I just decided to immerse myself completely
Fully.
in that space, which was a very scary thing to do.
At the time?
At the time, of course.
So you did have doubts and, thought, oh my God, would it fail? Because from the outside looking in, it doesn't look like that.
I still have doubts.
Until now,
I'm still like, what am I doing? Somebody's gonna be like, somebody's gonna call me out. Yeah.
And just be like, oh, I'm trying to, I don't know how she got here. We don't know how this happened. Because a lot of us, we get held back by, the imposter syndrome and the self-doubt, and you criticize yourself. You keep waiting for the perfect moment when you have all the resources and you have an editor, and that sort of never happens. Yeah,
and for me what happened is that the need to have a creative outlet was bigger than those fears at that point in time when I decided to make the decision. For some people, I know they get a little bit of like paralysis analysis, maybe because they don't for me, I didn't have any kids, I wasn't married, the only responsibility was myself. And so when I took the plunge, as long as I had my mom who had my back, and she was like, Waidera, you have my blessing. She sent me a message, 2 thumbs up. And I was like, all right, let's do this. Yeah. And I knew there's no other time that I'll be able to do this, child-free, partner-free, you know what I mean? And I just took the plunge. Yeah, actually, that is true. Because you feel like the risks are not, you're not playing around with someone's school fees and someone's future. I literally thought, if worse comes to us, I know how to plant maize, and I will eat that maize. I won't die of hunger. No, you will not. My greatest fear was, becoming a starving artist. But I just had to try. Or like those SoundCloud rappers. You know what I mean? Kudos to them. Kudos to them, of course. My sister is a SoundCloud DJ. So. Oh, dear God. But I didn't mean it
that way. I mean,
Yeah,
just
I know
like,
what
you
you mean.
you release music, and the music is dope too.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it just doesn't move past it. But yeah, we'll have your sister on the show. I'm so sorry.
Next time she's here.
Yeah,
she's
she
gonna
is.
be.
She should have been here. By the way, if your sister is watching, you should ask Jules why she didn't come with you. We have Dex here. So when we met at Capital FM, which is where we used to work together, I was on air. You were a sales girl lead. Do you miss 9 to 5?
You know what? Let me tell you, like maybe 2 years ago when I didn't have a strong belief in myself, I always was like, did I make a mistake? Did I make a mistake? Right now where I'm sitting, I don't miss it. I do miss the consistent income and being able to plan 5 years ahead, but I don't miss the fact that your salary is kind of, you kind of have a glass ceiling when you look at your growth, and you can't. I felt like there's nothing I'm creating from nothing. It was just like do this, and that's the gap I was trying to fill. So the answer is yes and no, but right now it's a no.
Right now it's an absolute
These
hell
things change.
no.
These things change.
Yeah,
but
they
right
do.
now I'm just like, nah, bruh. Yeah. When guys are rushing to work the first week of January, I'm like, sorry, I don't relate.
I cannot understand.
Yeah.
It's important. Alarms. So you don't even get like those Zoom meetings, Nini, and then they give you that PTSD.
Amina, let me tell you something.
It's not a trigger. You know, sometimes you hear the alarm and it's...
Yes, but let me tell you something. I work more. I work harder now for myself. You know, when you're doing a 9 to 5, sometimes you can coast, even a whole month.
Very
you just
true.
Show up and you're a zombie.
Yeah.
You can't do that when you're working for yourself.
Because who are you lying to?
Will you eat? Will you eat that? Who will eat?
Yeah.
Who will eat your zombiness? No. So you can't. You actually can't.
Now,
but I feel like you'd rather work harder for something that you have a little bit of love for, or something pushing you before.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like you're being forced to do it as well.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of the topics are relationships on your podcast. Umeonyesha ushege in Nairobi. Because not your inspiration is
which is my camera. I need to look my inspirers in the eye. Yes, girl. I draw a lot of my inspiration from my personal life experiences. And if you're talking about the podcast, So This Is Love, because I have more than one.
Yes, you do.
That was primarily an inspiration from my life. And I turned my lemons into lemonade.
Yeah, look at you, Taylor Swift. Like, let me turn my pain into money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Beyonce.
Yeah. Yes. You're making lemonade.
Yeah.
They cannot just disturb you,
No.
You are crying, you're sad, and then you don't make anything.
Yeah, I was like, this pain has to mean something.
Yeah.
Like, let's turn the pain into a passion.
Yeah.
I was basically making content for a younger version of me. And that is where So This Love came about. I was like, what's the kind of stuff I would have loved to listen to when I was going through what I was going through? Yeah. I felt like I went through so much, and I was forced to stop looking at this person who hurt me or this person who hurt me. Eventually I had to turn to me. And that inner work, looking internally and realizing I am also a huge contributor
to the drama.
I could be the drama. And that's why I was like, I need to create a space where I could feel the younger version of me heard and seen.
Yeah. Oh, that's why you describe it as a story of love, heartbreak, and you know how you sort of learn about yourself through people that you were in relationships with.
Yes, and the guests I have on my podcast are not only talking about romantic relationships. It's also non-romantic relationships, because I think the relationships that we have in our lives, from as early as 0, your caregivers, they really define who you are. And it's usually through the breakdown of those relationships. If you choose to learn from them, then there's an expansion, then there's growth. And why not share that with others, so that you don't feel like, everyone, when they're in the pits of going through something,
it's just you.
You feel like, who else has gone through this?
Yeah.
And then you realize everybody has a story. It's not just you. You're not that special.
Yeah, it's not just you, honey.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
the world is not revolving around
to talk
you.
about it, and I want people to feel like they belong to a wider mass conscience of something.
And it was like a natural, sort of like trajectory where it just, So This Is Love just became generally about love of a mother and daughter, father and son, and, sisters. And it's, just as long as it's love, it's a relationship, we can discuss it. We can try and unpack the toxicity, the trauma that this relationship, brought to you. You've said you have more than one, so it's related, I promise.
Yes, this is related, I promise, with Sharon Mashira. and Noni Moshiri. Shout out, babe. Which is my camera? I need
This
shout out to them.
This one.
This one.
Yes, that one.
Shout out Mashira, Noni. Those are my girls. That's It's Related, I promise. I'm a co-host, co-producer, and that's it for now. Those are my two main podcasts, and I also produce work for other people that I'm not camera facing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were saying there's a disadvantage for people who they have the non-visual, only audio podcasts, which is funny because podcasts are meant to be just audio. I mean, initially they were just meant to be audio, and I think, with mainstream media, there was just a lot. People want to see you now. We want to hear you and see you. Do you think they're being left behind? People who only have the audio podcast,
Who do audio only? Yeah, because nowadays podcasts are what you watch on YouTube.
Yeah.
But the podcasts really are audio only. So yes, there is being audio only. I'm at risk of falling behind, but I decided to just be true to what I wanted to do with So This Is Love and keep it audio only because of the structure of the podcast. You know, I let my guests be anonymous, so they have the freedom to share freely without that fear of, what will this person think about me? And also the relationships they're talking about, the other person is not here to give
their side of the
story. So it's just the integrity of storytelling in that form that I decided to keep the podcast audio only.
Yeah, so that they can be even, more open, because it's very vulnerable to just share the darkest moment of my entire life, or like the toughest things that I went through. So most recently, your episode went absolutely viral everywhere. And I don't know if you were surprised by it, because, you cover these topics, or rather you have these guests every so often, and people do share them, but then this one was just, I don't know if it hit hard, it hit home with everybody, with as many people. I don't know. What do you think was so different about this specific episode?
It actually baffles me, because I've had other stories that I feel were
more like traumatic.
Maybe to me. Maybe there's something that just struck a chord, because I've listened to so many stories. There was something unique about this one. I'm not sure what it is. I don't know if it was the severity of the abuse that the narrator was describing. I don't know if, my theory is that a lot of people saw a version of themselves in that, and they might not want to admit it, but everyone has had a moment where they're like, hey, wait a minute, who am I in this dynamic? And I think it's also the girl's vulnerability, Sophia's vulnerability. I think was one of those things that made people wanted to root for her. The more she was speaking, is she gonna get out? Is it
gonna get better? Like,
is it going to get better? Yeah, exactly. So I believe that's what it is. It's just, it had a huge impact because of that level of vulnerability, honesty, and the trauma was quite a lot. But I do have other stories from the previous seasons that to me they stuck with me more, you know. But everyone relates to a different story differently. So
okay, well, to our viewer, in case you have not had, the episode we're talking about from her podcast, it's Sophia and Bumpy.
Sophia and Bumpy.
So please, just go and listen to it without her giving too much or divulging a lot of information here on air. And like she said, it's very personal, very traumatic things that they're narrating that happened, to them. Does it affect you sometimes when you listen to some of your guests? Because do you carry it home with you? Do you just go thinking and you're just like, I can't believe like one person can go through so much?
Yeah, no, it does. But what I do is, I think that's why I don't have one project.
Okay.
It helps to have other things that you have going on. It's not just that, because if So This Is Love was my end all and be all, I think I'd be consumed by these stories. And sometimes I feel like I'm the right person for this job, because I've also gone through a lot. Thank goodness I have not been in an abusive relationship or anything like that, but I've had that kind of, you are able to detach from somebody kind of thing. So sometimes I don't get as shocked as maybe the regular Joe would. So it helps that you know, I've been through
You're
my
distracted
fair.
then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it's good to balance.
Yeah, in fact, sometimes to some, when they talk to you, you relate. You're like, so even you went through it. I went through it
Exactly.
too.
And I mean, I have to tell you, the people who come, I make it a point that the guests who come on the show are not actively at the stage of still healing from whatever it is they're talking about. They've already come out on the other side. So I don't talk to people who are coming, who are still...
they're healed.
Their anger is still very
fresh.
active and fresh. No. You've already gone past it and you're able to come back and answer the question, how did I contribute to this circus? Because it always takes two to tango.
It does.
Even if the other person was the aggressor.
Yeah.
You know, maybe there was something you were ignoring and you have to take ownership of that to grow. So even before I have the guests on, we do have a few conversations with my assistant to get the right people and to get the right stories.
Yeah, because you're not devoid of blame. And though you always act oblivious, you're like, me, I didn't do anything. And plus also, when you're narrating the story, it's always like from your point of view. And so you exaggerate the things that the other person because you're still angry. Now, I know I've got to let you go. And I know Osoro wants to also, ask a question or two or read some comments, Osoro. But there's so many people, Jules, who look up to you now. By the way, how are you handling the fame? Because you've always been a behind-the-scenes type person. You've always been so chill and... You know?
I mean, you knew I didn't want to come here. I was struggling. I was like, I'm not coming on TV. I want to just remain like this.
It took a lot of convincing, by the way.
Yeah,
Thank you, Jules. I think it's because we knew each other. You were just like, no, it takes away from the story. And I'm not sure I want to do it.
I mean, I feel like this is Sophia's moment. It's not Jules' moment. And I want to honor that. How do I handle it? It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot.
And it's about to get bigger.
It's, it's a lot, but there are perks that I like.
Okay.
You know, sometimes you walk into a restaurant, they're like, oh my God, we have the nice table for you. I'm like, and
PR gift.
PR gift.
Yeah.
There's a time I never bought any like sunscreen for like a year, you know. So there are perks, but then the flip side is that your life is kind of out there. It's something that comes with the territory.
Yeah.
It's something I just pray about, and I'm like, please just protect me. Whoever is not for me,
go away, because you're trying to build a community. That's what you're trying to do. You're not trying to like get fans.
An authentic community can be built even here, but people who are for me.
Yeah, and they will. And let me tell you, you have two of the biggest podcasts in the country, which is wild to think about. Both of them being in the top 10, knowing that you still do more. I've said this before, I'm so proud of you, honestly, and I know there's just a lot more for you to do because Africa is yet to know you, and so people are going to listen, and the world. So this is, I'm seeing like massive stages, 5,000 people, like it's really, really big. You've never done a live show. You should, right?
I'm trying to.
You're scared?
There's something in the pipeline.
All right.
I don't want to say anything yet.
Okay.
But it's gonna be.
It's coming.
Nothing like any other live show in Kenya by any creator.
Ooh, I love it. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's so cool. So if you are a fan of the podcast, she has a gig for you. You don't want to miss that. And one last question. For people who are starting out right now or thinking of starting out, what are some of the quick tips that you can give them about like what to get, what to start with, things like that?
Okay, quick tips. Understand your why, because that is your north and it's going to guide you. Number two, don't be scared to invest in yourself and in the machinery, the product, the equipment. I dilly-dallied for too long because I was like, oh, maybe. So I was borrowing this and borrowing that. Eventually, I just decided to do it. It's going to seem like you're spending a lot of money, but it's worth it, especially if you're very true to your north, as previously mentioned. Number three, just start.
Just start.
Just start.
Stop waiting for the moment.
Get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
A rolling stone gathers no moss.
So then the money comes after. You shouldn't get into it with the mindset of making money.
I think it's okay to get into it with the mindset of money if that's what your inner guidance system is telling you. I think it's okay. So you can't get into it for money. There is money in it, but there's no formula. Some people have made money faster, some haven't. I don't have a guidebook. For me, the most important thing is that you understand what you're doing, who you're trying to talk to, and why.
Yes.
Always keep that in mind.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks,
Julia
Amina.
Guy, though, so beautiful. Her spirit is beautiful. I used to wonder why she's not on air. I've said this so many times. I used to ask her when she's there at the sales desk, when she briefs me, she's like, okay, so we have this client tomorrow and we have this. And so it's related, I promise the name of the podcast was because we ramble. We used to ramble so much. So I was like, oh, of course, because the story goes like this, like this, like
but
this.
It's related.
And it's related at the end. I'll connect the dots. I know, it's a it's a long link, but thank you so much for coming through. All the best with everything.